suburban life is something that almost any American can understand. You might dislike it or like it, but they can relate to it. It's a nice metaphor or whatever for modern life. Oh, I think my lifestyle is fairly normal when I'm not on tour. Like I make an effort to get up at a reasonable hour nowadays instead of sleeping all day and going to the clubs all night. I try to keep up with current events.
I feel like I try to be a very moral person. And I always feel like if I believe a lot of those moral cliches, like two wrongs don't make a right, and there's no such thing as a free lunch, and if you do bad things, it'll come back to you, and all those sort of stupid things.
I went to college in the East. I went to Harvard, which is in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I played in bands there. I really tried to give up music a lot of times. I don't know if I ever thought I would really make it my career, because I guess because I was good in school. I always thought at that time, well, I'll probably be a doctor, I'll be a lawyer, I'll do, you know, one of these sort of more traditional tasks.
What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? Oh, baby, it's you.
By that time, I had lost interest pretty much in academic life, you know, that strict sort of academic thing. And I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, which is where I met Tina and met David, and that's where we formed the original nucleus of this group.
What is it? What is it? What is it? Oh, baby, it's you.
This person, Michael Wayne, lived with us and was looking through a TV guide, and he found the name Talking Heads, and I think it was just that all of us could immediately relate to that name, and that's why it was chosen. We also thought it could have many different connotations, the most important, which was that it would have no connotation with any existing music form. You wouldn't immediately think of heavy metal or even rock and roll necessarily when you heard Talking Heads. It's TV, video, supposedly the most boring format.
And we wanted to avoid the sort of image that a rock star is better than everybody else. The idea that, you know, because you can play guitar, play drums, and have a lot of girlfriends, that for some reason that makes you really important. I understand that in some countries musicians are still like considered to be relatively unimportant people.
Bed's on fire. Don't touch me, I'm a real live wire. Psycho killer, kiss kiss say, better run, 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 run
I think that we try on stage not to have, you know, spotlight on guitar solo, spotlight on lead singer, spotlight on drum solo.
We don't like the distraction ourselves. It's insulting to the audience.
You can't even finish it.
We knew we didn't want to do a lot of big lead guitar solos where the guitarist contorts his face and looks like he's having an orgasm.
Once, say it again. Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Run, 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 run away. Oh, psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Run, 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 run away. Oh,
I think that it's also just rejecting what other people had done, that we didn't want to fall into a category of, you know, there have been all these ones, glitter rock, leather rock, we'll say looking like Kiss or looking like this or having ripped clothing or having all of these things. We just didn't think that that was any of those images seemed too stereotyped, so that by falling back on an ordinary demeanor, you might say, then you could change it to anything you wanted.
A group like The Clash, for example, I think they have to look like a bunch of urban guerrillas every time they go out the door. But, or a group like the Ramones here in America, well, they want to wear those leather jackets anyway, but they have to wear them in the middle of the summer and stuff. I'm glad we don't have to dress up in uniforms every day.
At first I thought that dressing like a normal person meant sort of looking at everyone out in the street, summing them up and averaging it out and find out what Mr. Average is wearing and then just decide that's what I'll wear. I tried that a little bit, but I found the clothes difficult to keep up. A lot of average clothes require more upkeep than I'm willing to do. Like they need ironing and things like that, and they shrink if you throw them in a machine. So that sort of the purity of that idea got thrown out the window. But a lot of other things we kept with.
And everybody knows when somebody takes their shirt off on stage, which is terribly sexy, supposedly. Everybody knows nothing's going to happen more than that. I mean, there's not going to be any more sex after that. It's just a teaser. And I think we just want to avoid, you know, those kinds of things because we're too embarrassed to do it ourselves.
Réalisons mon espoir, je me lance vers la gloire. We are vain and we are blind. I hate people when they're not polite. Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Far better. Run, 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 run away. Oh, oh, psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Run, 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 run away. Oh, oh.
Well, slowly but surely we've developed a following of kids, you know, but at first it was sophisticated people that appreciated us the most. Yeah, this is a contradiction, yeah. I guess we first became aware of that here in New York when it seemed like some of our most devout fans were in fact people in fashion and various types of media, you know, filmmaking, video, those kind of people.
Thank you. Yep.
Some way Manhattan is stimulating. It's sort of stimulating to go out and see dirt everywhere and people falling over, and for some reason that it's exciting. If I get too comfortable, then I won't be productive. For instance, if I lived out in the suburbs and had a nice place with a big lawn or whatever, although I can't afford that, if I did live somewhere like that, I would be afraid that I would get too comfortable and it wouldn't work.
Mommy, Daddy, come look at me now. I'm a big man in a great big town. Years ago, who would believe it's true? Goes to show what a little faith can do. I was complaining, I was down in that dance. I feel so strong now 'cause you pulled me up,
A lot of music on the radio seemed to deal with love and life in general in rather mythic terms. Everything was happening on a grand scale, and every trip down the highway was some huge experience. I thought that's a little bit out of proportion. People are really going to be disappointed. People get very emotional about these sort of very mundane things. Grand events very rarely happen. I missed going to Vietnam. I suppose that would have been a grand event. But yeah, people get very emotional about the fact that the coffee wasn't made right or whatever.
Cast a shadow on the living room wall. Dark and savage with a profile so sharp. And wonder food on the table. There's really no hurry. I'll eat in a while.
I wanted to use things that were really just no more interesting than normal speech and no more dramatic, and yet somehow in the song context it might become more interesting.
Well, generally speaking, I think it's real city music, even though it's in the traditional rock and roll format of a verse and a chorus and then a middle eight. It pushes the limits to a certain extent, the songs that David writes, and then, of course, we each have fairly quirky instrumental styles ourselves, which serve to reinforce the song that's already a little bit weird to begin with.
We don't have that sort of the idea of a single melody line or a long guitar solo and everyone else is sort of playing in back of that. It's more like all the parts are integrated and they're all sort of equally important.
Like, for example, I got really tired of all those rolls on the tom-toms and the drummers trying to show off their physical stamina and stuff like that. So I would be perfectly happy with a bass drum, a snare drum, and a hi-hat, and that's it. On the other hand, Tina has traditionally played a bass that's more melodic than most rock and roll basses, and therefore more complicated. Instead of your do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, it's maybe David's playing that on the lead guitar, and Tina is carrying what is considered to be the melody. And this is probably because I'm a drummer. I think, well, actually, I'm just sort of a glorified manual laborer, and that if anybody, it's the other members of the band that are the artists. And then another day I'll think, wow, you know, that these people, the Talking Heads working together, someday are going to be remembered in music history. And I think it's a very artistic thing that we're doing, and it's, I mean, I'm not trying to sound highfalutin, but this is the way I really do feel sometimes. So I go back and forth between, sometimes I think what we play is definitely rock and roll, and sometimes I think, well, maybe this has nothing to do with what Chuck Berry and Elvis Presley and even Bruce Springsteen were doing.
Talking Heads have a new album. It's called Fear of Music. Talking Heads have a new album. It's called Fear of Music.
We came into this loft set our instruments up, and we did something we had never done before. We brainstormed, or we jammed, and we put on the tape recorder, and, you start. Okay, so Chris has started playing some drums, I start playing some bass, and everybody starts playing a part. Half the time it was just awful. But then all these little interesting things would happen, and this would get recorded on tape, and David would take the tape home, put it on his system, where it would sound entirely different, pick out the parts that sounded like, this goes along with an idea I had for this set of lyrics, or this goes along with a little riff that I had thought of before.
I just wanted to practice the part. That song was so naff last time. I got a question though. On the part that comes like.
I think I missed it one more time. I think I got off.
Yeah, on the time I went right back into that.
Yeah, I have trouble with that because
it comes in like that.
The words just go right in.
Well, it comes in like a half beat. Because this is on the up.
Instead of getting comfortable with the sound, I've tended to put myself in more and more difficult positions as far as writing. Sort of force myself to use methods and things that I was completely unfamiliar with. Recently, I did a couple of songs where the whole song was constructed, the music, and I wrote the words later. So the result was that there's guitar parts that I can't play and sing at the same time. There's the possibility that then you might have a relationship between the singing and the instruments that you wouldn't get before. Something else instead. Humiliated, hated. I had the words written out in various phrases and combinations, and I would sing them in different ways, a phrase at a time, into a tape recorder. It's a technique that doesn't always work, But I think sometimes you get melodies that way that I wouldn't get if I tried to write them on a guitar or play a chord progression or something like that. Try and stay awake. He feels humiliated.
Now he's distracted.
Tricks that use it.
And now he's really confused.
I've been listening to a lot of Kurt Weill. One of my ambitions was to write those kind of melodies that I found very haunting. I don't think I was entirely successful, but I think I came a little bit close. I wanted to write a sad song that didn't describe a relationship. To me, it describes how you feel when you feel very sad. Rock had its first big impact when it was just the sound. The sound of the rock records of the past would imply a lot. Just the sound of an electric guitar mixed up front instead of mixed way in the back implies a lot about something. And for some reason, kids have no difficulty understanding what it implies. It's just, it communicates whoop, like that. And they don't even have to think about the words. The words can be total drivel. But it's some kind of jangly sound or the approach or something. And that sometimes communicates a lot more than the actual words do.
The music and perhaps the lyrics have a number of ways to be appreciated. And that you can just, I mean, very often I do this too. You just sit and dance to the music, and you really don't think about what the words say. You don't think about the interplay of the musicians. You don't think about all of these things. You just sort of like get into the groove of the music, and that's all there is to it. And I always want the music to have that quality. I think it's great that we can do that, and perhaps have lyrics that are interesting to maybe read or think about as well.
I think everybody has their sort of individual interpretation. I know some little girls, 7, 9, and 11 years old, who do gymnastics to Don't Worry About the Government, and they sing all the words with incredible conviction, just as if they were young Chinese girls floating a raft down the Ganges River singing a propaganda song.
I think the general consensus with the band was that we should take liberties whenever possible to contradict ourselves, or for David to contradict himself lyrically, whatever. On our new record, we have one song which is in a sort of Eagles, Linda Ronstadt style, with the predictable Talking Heads twist. And then we have another song that's African-inspired music, Nigerian pop-style music. So, I mean, most bands, I think, wouldn't want to do that. They want to appear to be really consistent.
We write songs that have a particular point of view, and we're not worried if the next song has the opposite point of view. We feel that people have different ideas, feel different at different times of the day as well as different times in their life. And we don't really want to have a manifesto or an ideology. For us, at least, we feel that at this time is not important. What's more important is to show that there's a number of ways to see things. I mean, we've gone through so many ideologies lately, and so many, from religious ones to political ones to things like that, that I think it's sort of more important for people to seek some sort of truth on their own by seeing that there's a lot of, even though a lot of these things have contradictions, that you can come up with something that's your own.
People will tend to pick up on one song or another and assume that that's what you believe, where I feel like I can always point out another song that presents exactly the opposite point of view, which seems fine to me. I always felt that if I wrote something rather strong in one direction, I should be fair and write something equally strong in the other direction. So I just had a subject and a point of view. I thought I'd write a song about urban guerrillas from the point of view of their daily lives, instead of from the point of view of their politics.
Heard of a van that's loaded with weapons, packed up and ready to go. Heard of some grave sites up on a highway, a place where nobody knows. The sound of gunfire off in the distance, I'm getting used to it now. Lived in a brownstone, I lived in a ghetto, I've lived all over this town. This ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around. This ain't no monk club or CBGB, I ain't got time for that now. Transmit the message to the receiver, hope on answer someday. I got 3 passports, a couple of visas, you don't even know my real name. High on a hillside, the trucks are loading, everything's ready to roll. Sleep in the daytime and I work in the night time, I might not ever get home. This ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around. I love to hold you in, I love to kiss you, but I ain't got time for that now. Trouble in transit, got to the roadblock, we blended in with